There is one infamous incident. We always used to credit Islamic rulers for pillaging and to invade and kill and loot and all these things. Please remember, our own Hindu rulers have been extremely opportunistic in doing this. See, in those days, taxes was everything. Repression and suppression used to happen with taxes.
If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, I request you to subscribe to it immediately and click on the bell button so that you get notified when I upload a new video.
Hi everyone, today we are at the Chikka Devaraja Sagar Dam, which is about 20 kilometers from Mysore. Right where I am standing, the dam is just overlooking the camera as we speak, and as you can see the tip of the periphery of the dam, that's where the water then flows beyond. Right now, obviously we are shooting this in March 2023, so the water levels are a little modest, but I'm sure with the pickup of the rainy season, this will be I think brimming with water well beyond the dam as well.
Chikkadevaraja Wodeyar has contributed a lot to the development of Karnataka. He had brought in an excellent administrative competence to the state, which very few kingdoms of that time had. It was definitely inspired by the Athara Kacheri that he witnessed in the Mughal court in Aurangzeb's tenure. Other thing that he contributed to was he built these dams and canals under the Kaveri basin, which helped in irrigation for farmers. A lot of farmers helped from it, and he was a very smart user of money, if I could say so. He was not wasting the money, he was using it very efficiently, and in no time he became the Navakoti Narayana of Karnataka. That means a person with 9 crores, which was a very big money, back then. So he was actually a very rich king. He managed it very well, he utilized his sources very well, and he did a lot of good things in the history. But a few things that I would like to tell about him, which I wish he had not done that. I wish there was no incident like this. I wish that it's something that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. If I have to narrate one such story of Chikkadevaraja Wodeyar that happened in his tenure, that he himself kind of approved.
So, a little bit of history of this place. History according to who? Who is it serving? Is it serving your prejudice and bias? Do you want to see history through rose-tinted glasses? Or do you want to see history for what it is? Are you interested in the truth? Does the truth hurt your beliefs? Is the truth so damning, it will question everything that you have studied in school? This is what this video aims to achieve today. Let me begin. This enigmatic character, Mr. Chikkadevaraja Wodeyar, the erstwhile king of Mysore in the 1700s, has been credited with building this dam. Okay, so those were obviously, the dam was laid with good intentions to help the farmer to divert the water from the Kaveri basin, dam against the Kaveri river, and store that water and divert it for farmers' irrigation purposes. So it's a very noble deed indeed, and he is definitely remembered for this achievement. But what you do not know is that immediately following the construction of the dam started developing certain leakages, and it kind of collapsed in the interim, and then it had to be redone. So now we know that he constructed the dam, did a bunch of good things here, protected the land, gave safety to the people. Fine. So there are few aspects of this enigmatic personality. Let's talk about the positives. Some of the positives would be Chikkadevaraja Wodeyar actually realized that the Mughals were way too strong in the northern part of India, and at that time in the I would say 17th century, Aurangzeb was the king of the Mughals and was ruling over large parts of India. You need to understand this. So being a Wodeyar king, so he realized that on the one hand, the Mughals were the enemies of the Marathas, okay, and the Wodeyars and the Marathas themselves did not get along all that well. So based on the premise that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, that is where both Aurangzeb and Chikkadevaraja Wodeyar found an alliance between themselves. Now I know everybody's got their own, extremely strong opinions on Aurangzeb, and I am not going to show him in any positive color. Aurangzeb was another opportunistic Mughal king. So I am coming into this story from a very neutral standpoint. It's just that in military strategy, you have to ally up with people who look like your enemy, but at the same time you have to get something out of them as well. You need to understand military strategy. So Chikkadevaraja Wodeyar also was facing constant threat of the Marathas from the north. So Chikkadevaraja Wodeyar knew that the Marathas were opportunist pillagers and invaders. On the other hand, you had Aurangzeb, who was also equally an opportunist. So he struck an alliance with Aurangzeb. He said, look, I have control over large parts of South India, starting from Bangalore to Coimbatore to Salem and God knows where. Much of the Mysore kingdom that we know, which also extended to parts of Tamil Nadu, current day Tamil Nadu. So he had large control over it. So he said, you know what, I'm happy to rule from here. And you know, I accept everything that you have to offer and I'm willing to pay taxes. But the point is, in return, you know, let's have an alliance, let's have an understanding, right? It's all about strategy, let's ally up. So that's what they did. Now, you cannot judge Chikka Devaraja Wodeyar as being an evil person for teaming up with Aurangzeb. That was just political expedience of that time, okay? But will I give a clean chit to Chikka Devaraja Wodeyar? Hell no. Chikka Devaraja Wodeyar also took some principles of Mughal rule. He appreciated certain administrative, you know, architecture that Mughals used in the way they ruled their kingdom much across India. He replicated those administrative best practices and architectures in the southern part of India and established a number of departments to rule the kingdom efficiently. So there are certain good things about him also. Now let's get to the dark side of this ruler, okay, which is not going to be very pretty, but I'll still have to say it. Remember, I'm a proud Kannadiga, but I'm still talking this because today our history books are not telling us the truth. So I'm just making an attempt to bring it to the audience and let's encourage a debate. I am not the last word on this issue. Maybe somebody in the comment section, please feel free to comment and refute me and say, no, you're wrong. And I don't have an ego problem accepting even if I am wrong. So getting back to the point, there is one infamous incident. We always used to credit Islamic rulers for pillaging and, you know, to invade and kill and loot and all these things. Please remember, our own Hindu rulers have been extremely opportunistic in doing this. See, in those days, taxes was everything. Repression and suppression used to happen with taxes. If you don't pay taxes, you're not the friend of the king. If the king needs money to run the administration, to do a bunch of things, to possibly fuel more military campaigns. But remember, we did not have an economic system back then. The only system of economy is to conquer, plunder, loot and take the loot back and then see if you can find a positive way to use it. My biggest problem is this whole act of pillaging, plundering, you know, and killing people of your own religion as an opportunistic way to gain wealth and then use it elsewhere and divert it elsewhere is unethical. And it has to be called out, right? Today it doesn't happen because we live in a more, you know, constitutional-led society. But back in the day, there was no constitution. You could plunder anything, take away, loot everything, and then you could hope that history wouldn't cover it. But today's world is very different. Everything gets covered. There are surveillance cameras everywhere. You can't escape a damn thing, correct? Now, getting back, see, this is the problem. At that time, if you understand the nature and psychology of Chikka Devaraja Wodeyar, he was an ardent Vaishnava, worshipper of Vishnu, so everybody gets that. Now, on the other hand, there were the Lingayats, and they were the part of the Jangama sect, right? They were devoted Shaivites, and you know, they held Shaivite religion close to their heart. So, you know, they were coexisting, and they are actually the majority population in Karnataka. You know, Lingayats actually demographically a pretty strong contingent here, right? This man did not, for some reason, have a liking for the Lingayats. The Lingayats vociferously opposed these hefty taxes that the king was laying on them because they just felt it was adharmic and somehow the king was persecuting them. The king, first of all, did not like them, that they were Shaivite worshippers. So this man created almost a Tipu-like scenario. You know, Tipu is credited with massacring Kodavas at some point in history by inviting them for discussion and negotiation and some kind of reconciliation, and then using that pretext to get them in and then massacre them by the hundreds and thousands. This is exactly what our friend Chikka Devaraja Wodeyar did with the Jangamas or the Lingayats of that period. He invited 300 to 400 Lingayat priests to the Nanjanagudu temple, you know, the Nanjanagudu temple, which is located about 25 kilometers from Mysore city. And you have the big Shiva temple, right? Nanjundeshwara, everybody knows that. So he got 400 priests to come there, have a nice hearty lunch. Everybody had good food. So just when the priests thought that they could actually work with this king and work out some arrangement, he betrayed them. There was a narrow passage through which they had to take an exit from that temple. In that narrow passage, he lined up wrestlers and basically today's equivalent of bouncers and just, you know, went on to strangulate 400 priests, and they all died. And not only this, history also records, there's a British historian called Wilkes, who in his writings has documented that even beyond this Jangama massacre, which is the infamous incident of the massacre of 400 priests, Shaivite priests, he goes on to document that this king also was very strong in his beliefs. He went on to destroy some of the mutts belonging to the Shaivites. As a hater of Shaivism as he was, he went on to destroy much of the infrastructure. Everywhere in the villages, wherever there was a strong Shaivite presence and a farmer presence, the farmers used to hang their their implements upside down on the trees as a mark of insurrection, saying that we do not bow down to you, as a mark of rebellion. They were so tired of paying these hefty taxes. So please understand, history is not just one joyride in the amusement park that everybody was, this guy was good, this guy was bad. Black and white. You never know who is actually good and who is bad. Depends on circumstance. Now, Karnataka is a great place. It has given birth to so many saints, so many religions, so many sects, right? So many good kings, right? Chamundeshwari has blessed this land of Mysore. There's no doubt about it. But it is worthwhile noting these kind of exigency, these kind of irresponsible behavior on part of the kings, right? So I think, in all fairness, I'll say today I think I live in a much more sane world compared to that. One of anarchy, opportunism, where kings would not stand up for the faith, they would stand up for their petty selfish goals. So it would have been an extremely dangerous period for anybody to live at that time. So I really credit those people who lived through all this, and then are, we as their descendants are here to tell that story. So I hope you got something out of this. I know you will have heavy disagreements and opinions. Please get to the comment section, okay? But I am equally interested in finding out the truth. Bring out references if you can. Tell me your version of the story. Let us broad base this story. Thank you.